Been a lot on your plate, but I got what you need. You need a praise break. Get your praise on. 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 Praise break. Get your praise on. Get your praise. Come on. Get your praise on. Get your praise on. Get your praise on. Get your praise. Come on. Get your praise on. Hallelujah. 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 I can't help but praise. 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 3, 2, 1, go! Get your praise on. 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 Praise break. Get your praise on. 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 I wanna sit down on God. Get up. 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 I wanna sit down on God. All right now.
Did you enter? All right. I don't know if we're live or what's going on. Hello, everybody.
How are you guys?
Just let us know if you guys see us. We are in a very wooded area, so we're not even sure. We tried all the things prior to getting on, and it worked.
Yeah.
So we just don't know. So somebody, can y'all send me some hearts just to let me know that y'all can hear us well?
Yeah, because we're in the country, y'all.
I don't know why this man like taking me to the woods, honey. But it is so beautiful. We are live from the Jordan Ranch
Retreat Center.
Retreat Center. Really beautiful place. Really beautiful place. Just a place. So we are on like a marriage retreat. Torrance and I every 3 months try to get away and work in and on our marriage. So I want you guys to first welcome the ruin my good gumbo, Torrance Wilson, to the platform. It's always fun when we're together. We have a good time, and I'm glad that he's here. So we really wanted to, because we're working in and on our marriage, we wanted to just kind of share some of the things, some of the hurdles we had to experience, and things that we had to change to make our marriage work. We had to be very intentional. And so one of the things that we both decided and said that this is going to be first ministry.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Torrance is the pastor on staff at Houston's First. However, and he's in full-time school. He just has a lot on his plate. But one thing we had purpose in our hearts that we were just going to have this be our first ministry. So we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about like some tools that we use just to help us continue to have a healthy marriage. It wasn't always like this, right?
No.
Oh, that first year. We're going to talk about that too. We're going to get into that.
Yeah, our first year was
kind
of rough.
Yeah. You know, we went from the Lord said to like maybe 3 or 4 months in, did the Lord really say? Because we was working each other's nerves, honey. But it was good. So we just had to find our niche.
It was a hard transition from being friends for 7 years to being, this is my wife, this is my queen, this is my lover. And what does that look like?
Yeah. but we had to figure it out. And one of the ways we
Right now, we really looking like Glams and Pop.
oh yeah, we in
rocking
rocking
chairs.
chairs. I'm telling you, it's legit. It's legit. We like, all right, let's bring out the tea and yeah.
Just put us in the retirement
Oh
mode.
no, in the retirement. Oh,
Retirement mode, not retirement home. Retirement mode.
all right, you are all right. So you guys. Oh, and by the way, thank you guys who made comments. You know, when we was traveling here, we was trying to get that music right, and Torrance was trying to do something else, and so we had a good time just laughing.
Yeah,
on
I like all the genres of music, so I can go into a little rock and roll, little R&B, a whole lot of country, a little hip hop.
Yeah. And so if we're looking real weird because we're comfortable, we were like, we're not dressing up. We really wanted to be laid back and enjoy the scenery and just the time that we get to spend with not only one another, but with God. So it's been good.
Yeah, from your previous host, I should have came on with a 3-piece suit on.
Oh,
especially my brother Colin, man. He just kill a game.
But we was like, nope, we're gonna just relax
we're gonna be comfortable
today. So let's talk. Let's dive in about just how we had to work really intentionally on our marriage that first year. I want you to start us off.
Okay. So the first year, you guys, like I said, we were friends for 7 years, never dated, strictly platonic. And it was a hard transition to go from being best friends to, wow, this is my wife 24/7. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. That's right. So it was very tough. I was in the car business. I was a car salesman for the first 4 years of our marriage. And so the first year I was gone for like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. So that's spending more time with my coworkers and then with my wife. And every Saturday, my wife would be doing things with the family and the kids. And I would be
at work
in my office selling cars. And so I was spending more time being intentional on building my career as a car salesman than I was in building my whole life with my wife and my family. And so the best thing that could have happened to me is transitioning out of the car business into full-time ministry.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times I think that's one of the pitfalls that the enemy uses, is like allowing or having that person so busy, like they neglecting home. Like, you know, it's really a sad place when you check your health, check your retirement plan, and check your retirement account more than you check the health and the wealth of your relationships.
Yeah.
Whether it's with your spouse, with your children, with your family. You know, and I get it, but I think a lot of times we don't prioritize our marriages like we should,
especially with men, because and you can tell this in the first conversation with a man is within the first 5 minutes of our conversations, typically it's going to come up, what do you do for a living? And so we identify ourselves with what we do versus with who we are.
That's good.
And I think that it's kind of engraved in us, even coming up as a young man. It's very important that, like, what do you do? Even with our son, like I ask him often, like, son, what do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up? And so it's been ingrained in us to be that way, to be providers. But there's a balance even in that.
Yeah.
And so I never want to put more effort into my career than I do with my wife and I. Right. And this is our first ministry. And out of that, out of our first ministry, as long as we're healthy, everything else kind of flows.
Yeah. And back to that first year, that it was very challenging, right? Because then we were really learning one another, which was different from us just being friends. And so there was a lot of heated arguments. There was a lot of tiffs. It was, and then unnecessarily. And so Torrance and I had both experienced breakups, bad relationships, marriages that didn't last. And so one thing that I wanted us to do, I was like, you know what? I'm almost 50 years old. I'm not doing this. I am not going to spend the rest of my life fighting. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life arguing. I did that. I've been there. I did that. I had all the drama, and I know that sometimes we're gonna have tips, because we do.
Yeah,
we do. We have heated
fellowships.
Heated fellowship. But we have gotten so much. Yeah. We have gotten so much better, because now the communication is key. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of times, a few of you probably could agree with this, and especially in our culture, you don't talk about certain things. We sweep it under the rug. Or even if I felt a certain way, I wouldn't say anything to not have a heated fellowship. However, now we just like, hey, honey, this is how I feel. This is, we take time. Every week we go on a date night. And so we have those conversations where we just,
we have to be intentional about date night. It has to go on the calendar.
Yeah.
Because if it's not on the calendar, both of our lives, and we can just get busy.
Yeah.
And we're moving in opposite directions. And so we're very intentional on focusing on our marriage.
Yeah, thank God. And it was because we wanted to do the work. We wanted to have a healthy marriage. And, one thing that I wanted to make mention, we also had a community of people who didn't have a perfect marriage, but it was a healthy marriage. Yeah. And they really discipled us and walked with us through some hard times. And we had to do the work. We had to purpose in our heart, like, honey, I don't want to, like, you're my person. I don't want to spend the rest of my life arguing with you or not being happy. You don't want to wake up that whatever morning and be like, I don't even like this person anymore. And we're more like roommates instead of husband and wife and companions and, all those things.
I remember a pivotal point in our marriage. We were sitting down on the couch. Mm-hmm. In our little bitty tiny apartment. Mm-hmm. And we had just had a really bad disagreement. And I remember us both sitting down on the couch, exhausted from having that tiff. And we were like, okay, I believe the conversation went something like this, that where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. Should we have waited? And I think we both agreed that we should have waited. We got married in 3 weeks, you guys.
Yeah, for real.
Because we had been friends for so long. So the next holiday we got married.
Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, we got married so fast. Our invitation to our wedding was a group text. And so we agreed that we probably should have waited. We probably should have dated longer than we did. Mm-hmm. But it was like, okay, well, where do we go from here? And being both of us were mature believers, we knew that our marriage wasn't a contract. So we knew that our marriage was a covenant before God. And so a lot of times I remember my wife came up with this slogan, and it just became a peacemaking statement.
What is it, honey?
Surely the Lord isn't pleased with how we're acting.
Yeah. Not if we kept saying that we wanted our marriage to represent Christ. Mm-hmm. And
Christ to be the center of our marriage.
Christ to be the center of our marriage. Because like I said previously, we had both had failed marriages and relationships and like toxic relationships, right? And so we didn't want that for one another and for ourselves. So that's the thing that I had to really just like, you know what? When we have these unnecessary...
I didn't have toxic relationships.
Oh, I did.
I had a toxic life. I didn't have a relationship with nobody before my wife.
But then, we didn't want that for one another mm-hmm. or for ourselves.
We vowed that the rest of our lives would be the best of our lives. And so we've been very intentional in taking the steps to get there. Mm-hmm. So if that's our goal for our life, we've identified that that's our goal for our life, that the rest of our life will be the best of our life. And so it's taking those steps and putting in place the things that we need to get there.
So one thing I think I said that one thing that we do, we have date night. Mm-hmm. We decided that we wasn't going to date to marry. We was going to marry to date. Yeah. So we married to date, and still today, no matter what, even if it's an hour, 2 hours, we want to be intentional about dating. And it's not so much as, we're going to go and hang out and spend money and all this. Sometimes it's just like, honey, let's just go take a ride.
Yeah.
Honey, let's just be together and like just have this conversation. So a lot of times we were at Starbucks.
I was just gonna say
we had
Starbucks.
Shout out to Starbucks, even though this is not a paid advertisement. But that's a lot.
It probably
That's where
should be as
probably
much as we spend in Starbucks.
where it happens, and so we have those conversations. And we, even if it's a heated conversation, we want to make sure that we have resolve.
Yeah.
Before we do not go to sleep mad.
No, I remember one.
Angry.
I remember it was maybe a month or two ago. We had some issues come up, and we went and we had a really nice dinner, and it was a tiff, almost respectful tiff at the restaurant. And I remember saying, "Man, this was a really productive date night," because we got resolved, even though. It may not have looked like what our typical date nights look like. We got resolved and we were able to worship that night.
Amen. Amen. That's another great part of your marriage.
Yeah.
Worship.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we do, and like really not sweeping things under the rug. Like if there's a lot of times we find that just hiding our feelings are, and it's important.
Yeah.
To
clear communication.
Yeah, that's what he would always say. We have to have clear communication, because I just assumed that he knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like I just assumed like Torrance, he should know this. He should know that I need him to take out the garbage right now, right? And he was like, well, you didn't ask me to take out the garbage. I'm like, the garbage is full. Like, it's a no-brainer. And so we just had to bring everything to the point where we gave clear communication to each other and not have to guesstimate like what does he want. So when I want to have some me time and like, honey, I'm just gonna go hang out, whatever. And if he wants to do the same, we communicate that to one another. Sometimes there's times where Torrance will just say, honey, I just want my wife. I have to study in about 2 hours. I just want you to come sit next to me and like, let me hold your hand. And so, or like, just put your hand on, like whatever it is. And whatever he needs in that moment, even if I'm busy and before it was a process, because sometimes I'll be like, this is so awkward. I got laundry to do. Like, I don't want to come hold your hand. Like I got things to do. But then I had to process. And you know what? Alisha, you prayed for this. Alisha, you prayed for a man that is going to love you. And so, and that's one of our conversations. You wanted him to tell you and to be vulnerable, like he's being vulnerable. So you need to wait on doing laundry or whatever I needed to do. And I had to, in that moment, come and sit. If that, whatever he needed me to do is what I had to do.
Yeah. And I know oftentimes we can get busy. I
chose to do it because that sounds so bad. Like you was making me do stuff. Because we don't make each other do anything. No. But we present an offer on the table, and it's up to us to choose. And so we choose because we choose life in our marriage. Yeah.
And we both can be very task oriented. And so sometimes we could put tasks before each other. And so we've been intentional about not doing that. Even if it's schoolwork, I'd rather be a B student in school and be an A student in marriage than the opposite, or having straight A's in school and my marriage is falling apart, or be an amazing employee and my marriage is falling apart. And so we just vowed not to do that. Yeah. And we keep it real. We keep it real.
Fault sometimes.
if we're not feeling it, we're not going to put on that happy face and be like, oh yeah, praise the Lord. Like, no, we need to get it right with one another before we can minister effectively to anyone.
I remember, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but I thought it just came to my brain. I remember Torrance and I were going to do a radio interview. Like we had showed up to the radio station, but in the car, like before Torrance got his LASIK surgery, he was like a horrible driver. Like he can't see, but he wouldn't wear his glasses. And so it would just cause little tics because
I drove like the average Houstonian.
No, and half the Houstonians need driver's ed because they drive horrible.
Yeah, I think it's just the difference between, growing up driving in a major city and growing up driving in Lafayette, where 100,000 people.
You know what? My point to this story was, so we get to the radio station, but the whole time we're in the vehicle, and I'm like, Torrance, slow down. Like, Torrance, you didn't see that red light. Torrance, you didn't see the stop sign. And he could not see. He really couldn't see. And I kept saying, well, honey, you need to wear your glasses. So we had an argument in the car. Now, on our way to go to do a live radio show, he opens my door. I knew he was upset because he didn't open my door. He just got out the car, like beeline to the radio station and left me in the car. So I'm used to him opening my car door. So I'm just sitting in the car and I'm trying to breathe and kind of gather my thoughts like, man, how is this going to work? We go into the radio station and they greeted us really well. And then we looked at each other. He had smoke coming out his ears and his nose. He was like heated because,
we went into their waiting room.
And so we asked him, we said, is there any way? They were like, oh, we're going to mic you guys up and all that stuff. And I said, no, we can't. Mm-hmm. I said, is there a room that you guys have that we can borrow or just use for a couple seconds? And he was like, oh, no, y'all going to come. We're about to start. And we had maybe 10 to 15 minutes before we actually go on, right? And Torrance and I told the guy, and his whole staff was standing there, and we said, we can't. Until we get this right, we can't go and talk about ministry and all that, because this is my first ministry. It's God, it's my man, it's my children. And then he looked at us like, wow, I've never experienced that. I said, no, we don't want to ever be those people who like, oh yeah, praise the Lord, everything is well. And like, no, we're not even talking to each other. We don't do that. If we had a tiff, we ain't holding hands probably. you know it. So we went into the room and we first repented. We asked the Lord to forgive us. Just the way that, because we wasn't loving each other well in that moment. I wasn't respecting my husband in that moment. And in return, I didn't feel love. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel love because first he left me in the car and just kind of like, and I was just like, and even with having.
And that's the foundation. Yeah. Love and respect.
Love and respect.
Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, and wives, respect your husbands. Mm-hmm. We don't need as men, we don't need the type of love. Well, I'm gonna speak for myself. I don't need the same type of love that my wife needs. The love that she shows me comes in a form of respect. And so often if a man feels disrespected, then he'll withhold love. And if a woman feels not loved, she'll withhold with respect.
And other things, which is not godly, but a lot of times, like we like, yeah, you mad, I'm mad, so I'm not gonna do this. Fix your own dinner. Like it becomes this war, and a lot of times we don't resolve. Yeah. And so I'm holding on to a grudge, or I'm holding on to something Torrance did 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But we really had to be intentional about that because we used to do that. Like our first year, it was horrible.
The bottom line, we really had to grow up.
We grew up.
Yeah, we had to grow up. We had to put our big boy and big girl
underwear.
On and just grow up and mature in our marriage, mature in how we related to one another. And it's been amazing.
And we, above all things, we had to keep the Lord.
Christ as the center of our marriage.
Christ as the center. Because when we started doing that, like the tiffs wasn't tiffs anymore. We was like, oh, honey, when you did such and such, this is, and so we able to talk things out and talk things through without pointing the finger. Well, if you wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have did this, because we used to do that at the first years. Oh, it was like really bad. And I would do things. And even though, let me back up. Even though Torrance and I both love Jesus, we were believers and we really thought we had did the work prior to getting married, right? Because I went through this time where I didn't date anyone and I just worked on myself and I was trying to, who's Alisha Faye? Who am I? What do I love? All those things. Torrance did the same thing. He went through a lot of marital and parenting classes and courses. So we thought we were doing the work, and we were, but when it was time to apply what we learned,
we wasn't applying the work.
Under pressure, we both broke.
Yeah.
Because I felt it was offensive. Like we would go for each other, really. So even if I would say something to Torrance knew, and because he was my friend and we would talk about so much, he knew that if he would say something, Torrance don't fight right. Anyway, let me back up and say this. Torrance was not, even in arguments in the beginning, he was not a clean fighter. He was dirty. He was a dirty fighter. And because we were friends and he knew a lot of my just past and a lot of things that I did and experienced, he would come for me in those very vulnerable places.
So what you trying to say? Like I would punch below the belt?
You would punch below the belt, the gut, I'm telling you, this man would fight dirty. And so that would make me not share my heart with him anymore. And so there was a point I said to him, I said, you know what? I did this. You remember that? I said, I will never tell you nothing about me. I said, how we open and like we cool, today's the last day. You're getting nothing from me. And he looked at me like, okay, like, what does that mean? Because I just felt like, I don't know if you ever been in a fight or in an argument and things that you share with somebody in a very vulnerable place. And then in an argument, they try to use that against you. Honey, that was it for me. And so I didn't want to talk to him. Like things would happen. And Torrance was like, honey, why didn't you tell me that? Oh, I was like, I'm not sharing anything. So for like maybe a year or maybe 8 to 10 months for sure, I wouldn't share a lot of things that I wanted to share with him, because I was like, I can't be vulnerable with you because you're going to use this one day, to your advantage.
So do you like me now?
Oh, I love you. And I like you. And I like you. But those things made us grow up. Mm-hmm. Those things made us really check ourselves, right? Because it's easy for you to check your mate, right? Checkmate. But no, it's like when you start checking like yourself, and then it makes things so much easier, because it was easy for me to point the finger at Torrance. And a lot of times I took the blows like a champ. Like he would say something that really he would hit below the belt. And I really could have come back and say something really ugly to him. And then I was like, I think I'm going to just choose, I just had to choose my battles. I was like, because if I say this, it's going to lead to something else. And then it's just going to be tit for tat, like pointing fingers, and we're never going to resolve the issue. Mm-hmm. So then we just finally got to a place where it was no more using our past in our present relationships, in our present arguments. It was not allowed. You couldn't do it. And that's when we started the healing process. Yeah,
we even set guidelines for tiffs, mm-hmm. and guidelines for tiffs, guidelines for disagreements, and this is how we're going to operate, or this is how we're going to communicate within disagreements. And so now, even if there's an unresolved issue, we'll take time out for that. Like, hey, you know what? It's heated right now, so let's put it on the back burner, and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, and because we have learned that it's not good to, when like you in a place where you're probably upset or just really going through some stuff, we always say give me 50, give me 10, give me 15 or whatever, because a lot of times I know for me, I needed to process what had just happened or what had just been said.
But ladies, what you don't do not, if you have a tiff on Monday, and say, okay, well, when are we going to process this? When are we going to talk about it? When are we going to discuss it? What you don't do is say Friday.
And it's Monday. I did that. I really did. Like, because, and this is so fun, because this is showing you guys how much we have would hit below the belt. And so now I'm feeling, wow, I can't even catch my breath, right? Because he fights dirty for real. And so I'm like, okay, it's good. All right, but let me process it. And so he would, and I'll say, okay, honey, I just give me 30 minutes just to process it. And so he would just, I remember the time that you're talking about. He would follow me around the house. Well, I want to talk about it now. I don't want to talk about it later. I want to talk about, let's resolve it now. And it was kind of like, hey, stop, let's talk. And I'm like, honey, like that. We would make up these rules and Torrance would break all the rules. I was like, you remember the rule number 604 that you created? I need you to follow your own rules, right? And so even though I was like, I need a process, and he would just follow me around the house. Like, baby, let's talk now, baby. Because now he wanted to make up. But then I was still trying to process. Not that we wasn't, because we both very forgiving, but I needed some time just to kind of like process what he had just said. And kind of like, okay, this was a lie, and this was truth. Because a lot of times when you're in an argument, people say things, even your spouse will say something to you that's not true about who you are.
Yeah, we can't.
And so I had to take that thing. I had to unpack that.
Mm-hmm. And I think I'm gonna let you come back.
Go ahead,
excuse me. But what we had to start doing is identifying the behavior versus the person. And we didn't understand that in the beginning. Like we would attack the person instead of the behavior that we were seeing, or the attitude. We addressed the attitude versus the person.
Yep. And we both had to recognize that, because I know I came from a very just hurt place, that I still had some residue, and I didn't even know the residue was still there until I married Torrance. You see, I didn't have to deal with arguments when I was single. I didn't have to deal with other things that came with my spouse, right? My person, my partner. So the things that I thought, oh, I'm ready for marriage. Oh, yes, bring it on, Jesus. But then when it happened, it sometimes it took me to a really bad place, or a familiar place, right? That I didn't really, that I didn't want to be, right? Or even visit again. And so then I had to sit back and process a lot of things. So it's good to offer like emotional support with your partner. So now, since we've grown a lot in a lot of areas, praise God, because it was him.
Yeah,
it was him who did it.
And I want to say that too, because your marriage is going to minister either positive or negative to someone.
Yeah.
And that's why you hear that so much, that your marriage is a ministry.
That's right.
Because people are always watching.
Somebody's always watching. And it's somebody's always watching for real. And one thing that we're not saying is don't put on a happy front when there's an issue.
No. Like
you guys, a lot of times, I mean, we're going to not say anything, or we may be quiet, not to start a tiff. However, I think that there should be an appropriate time where you just tell that your spouse or your person, like, honey, this is how I felt in this moment. And this was a lie, because I do that. Like if something happens or something he says, I'm like, this is not truth. And this is where, and so we get to unpack a lot of the conversations and the things that we say to one another.
And a lot of times, a lot of times it's you may, in the heat of the moment, you may say something that you're not communicating well. You're not communicating exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And so after the heat is done and you can come back and revisit those conversations, you know, okay, well, you know what, I said that, that was a lie. Or I probably shouldn't have added always, or man, you're always doing this, or you're always doing that, because those things, they are lies. Like, and so you take off those adjectives and you get to the, hey, you know what, in this moment, this is what happened, and I didn't agree with it, or I felt disrespected,
and that made a huge impact on our relationship, because all I kept hearing, you always doing this, you always doing wrong, you always, you never, or you, and I was like, that's not true. And so I just started calling him on the lies. Like, once I processed it, we would sit next to one another, get our pens out, and we would just really talk about, honey, like, when you said that to me, that wasn't true. That was, you know, and I felt this way about it, or and this where it was a lie, and this where you spoke truth. And so now we would get together and pray, and he would, you know, say, I'm sorry that this was a lie, but this is why I said it, because I knew it would hurt you in that moment. And so that's how we just started processing stuff. We had to really work.
It really brought healing to our marriage. And And now we resolve a lot of our things. How we resolve it? We rock, paper, scissors. It just alleviates all arguments. Whoever win, but now we're so in tune with one another. It takes us about 5 minutes to even do that.
Yeah, because we always like landing on this. I know it's silly and it sounds comical, but that works for us.
Yeah.
Because like if there's a TV show that Torrance wants to watch and I want to watch something different, and we just use rock, paper, scissors to resolve a lot of
yeah.
Some of the tips.
It works, y'all. I promise it works.
Well, it works for us.
Yeah.
It works for us. Another thing, what else you wanted to share about how marriage is your ministry? I know for me, I wanted to share a little bit about how everything and everybody else don't matter. Not that they don't matter. However, that your spouse, God and your spouse.
Yeah, that
don't let
sounds
kids.
Ugly to say that.
Yeah, that's why I try to clean it up. Try to fix that.
But I said this, and I can't remember where I got this from, but well, yes, I do. It was a very wise man that one of my coworkers that worked with me, one of the most godliest men. He's in medical school now, but one of the most godliest men I know. Shout out to Edward. And he just shared this with me, with him and his wife. He said him and his wife, they say no to the rest of the world to say yes to each other. And that just really I'm like 10 years older than this guy. And I was like, wow, that is so profound. And so now I think we take that same approach that we tell the rest of the world no, so that we can say yes to each other. Yeah. Whether that's in traveling and things that come up on our schedule. There was a conflict of our scheduling, even to be here at the Jordan Ranch. And instead of upsetting one another, we chose to, and I don't think they were upset, but we just couldn't make it. Hey.
Yeah. I choose, and I chose you, honey, because I choose our marriage. I choose our friendship. I choose where we are now opposed to where we were then. And so I have to still be more intentional, like keep my love on. When we read a lot of books about marriage. I was just about to say
that. We do the work. And now when we get tools, we actually utilize those tools that we get. And at first we would just get all these tools and still revert back to those old behaviors. Yeah. And so now we use the tools that we're given. And I also want to mention this, that because culturally it's almost like unheard of that we would seek counseling. Yeah. And sometimes we can be in such vulnerable places and fragile places in our marriage that the best thing that we can do is to seek wise counsel. And sometimes that wise counsel is professional counseling. And so we did that. We sought out, because we got married so fast. We know a lot of pastors that would have loved to do our marital counseling, but within that 3-week span, we couldn't get put on any of their schedules. And so
we did ours after.
We done our marriage
and we
counseling
needed it too
after. And we didn't just go once, it wasn't just a one and done. We went again when we needed it. And so we sought wise counsel, we sought godly counsel, and people we had friends who poured into our marriage, but we would consult those friends who we knew would pray for us versus, oh, hey man, have you heard about the Wilsons?
And that's the thing, like just having friends in a community of people that love and trust you even in those hard places. And that's not going to put your things on blast or talk about your stuff. I had people that loved us and supported us and rooted for us and cheered for us. Our As One class, all things new. Like we had so many people and just different friends.
Yeah, friends who have been married 25 years, 30 years.
Who supported. But I wanted to go back real quick to finish this story. When Torrance and I had this argument, and I said to him, I said, I need some time to unpack this, right? And then we're gonna have a conversation. Now he's following me all around the house, and I'm trying to really give me 50 feet. And he's like, let's talk now. I want to talk now. I want to talk now, babe. I want to talk now. You still mad? And I'm like, I'm about to just go off on this young man.
Bag. Give me 50 feet.
And so he said to me, and so he put like, I have some rules and boundaries in place, and he has them as well. So then he would always don't follow his own boundary list, but it's another story. And so he had put this thing in place that when we're having a heated conversation or a heated moment, usually we I'll say, honey, do you really think that the Lord is pleased with the way we're talking to each other in this moment? And so he'll say, all right, this at 6 o'clock, we'll do this, right? So at 6 o'clock, no matter what we're doing, we have to sit down and talk about it. So this one particular day, he kept following me, asking me, when can we talk? When can we talk? And I said Friday, and it was Monday. And I did not talk to him until Friday. So he calls me, he sends me this, oh, I'm sorry, baby. And, he's really has a forgiving heart, right? And he's like, I'm sorry, I love you, Queen. And he had this beautiful long text, and I didn't respond because it wasn't Friday. And that was my hard Friday.
Yeah, you did respond. You
on Friday.
No, it's not Friday.
Then when Friday came, we had the discussion, and we talked about it. But
and
no
then
matter
we put
what,
another rule in place that's unacceptable.
That's too far away. So yeah, thank you guys so much. We're not perfect. We don't have it all together, but we still a work in progress. But we committed to the process. We committed to the journey, and we're grateful because some of the things, and we just shared a little smidget of the things that and the tools. However, we're
you
grateful.
said something too before we get off. You said that don't allow those kids to.
Let's go there for just a second.
Yeah.
Like our kids, we have 6 kids and 3 grandkids together. We are a blended family. We also teach a blended family class.
And we have 6 other spouses. So it's a lot of fault lines, I should say. There's a lot of fault lines that could disrupt our marriage or our peace at any given time, because there's so many different variables that the nuclear family don't have to face. Yeah. And so a lot of times we're very transparent about those things in our All Things New class, which is a blended family class at Houston First Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm. So shout out to All Things New.
Yeah. We and I'm so grateful that we have a church that they saw the need for a blended family class to talk about those issues and discuss those issues and how to handle them in a biblical manner. That we created a class. And so
baby mama drama, baby daddy, we talk about it all. We talk about it all. But it's from a biblical standpoint, but also how to some of the things that one person may have, experienced, the other person could speak into that and how they walk through that time or that season. So it's just really been a blessing to see how the Lord has done that. Yeah,
but you can't allow your children in marriage to come between you two. It's Christ is the head of the church in every marriage, and we submit ourselves to Christ, and then it's the children. Yeah. And so the world would tell us different, that, oh, my children come first, it's my 4 and no more.
Did that.
And it's not. It's backwards, because if your children comes first and it's never your spouse, then what are you going to do when your children go off to college, or your children go off and marry on their own?
And then you left behind by yourself because you've destroyed your marriage. Yeah. I think for single mommies, I'm going to talk to us, to you guys, because I played that role as well. Just being a single mom and raising my 2 girls, it was like, that was my world. Everything was about my girls, making sure my girls finished school and all the things, and just giving them all the things that they needed, right? And so when I married Torrance had made a comment. It was something I was going to do. And he said, oh, well, these are not kids anymore. You don't have to run all the time for the girls, honey. Let them figure things out. And I was offended. I dare you. These are my children. This is my, And then I had to process that thing. I had to really learn how to.
I think you had to learn from example too.
How to just let go and let God. But I didn't want. I think I did that out of I just didn't want my children, and even though it probably wasn't the right thing, me being a mom and raising my girls, I just didn't want them to think or say, right? Oh, now mom's married, she forgot about us. And it's all about Mr. Torrance. And so I was trying to balance being a good mom and still be there. My girls were already had their own places by the time Torrance and I got married. But I think I had the guilt of, because me and my girls did everything together. And then now I have my man, and like, okay, yeah, I know you want to hang out, but I need to go do lunch with the girls. And so it started bringing like unnecessary friction. And then I had to just, like, the Holy Spirit really had to just teach me how to just let that stuff go. And like, he was my first ministry.
And now there's still a healthy balance where Alisha gets to go and have lunch with the girls and still hang out with the girls and all of our kids. And so there's time for that, but then there's also it should always be that we come first.
Yeah. And when I started doing that, I saw a healthy relationship with my girls. And then they started saying, wow, Mom, I love, it blessed my life when I heard my girls say, Mom, we love the way Mr. T take care of you. They were not concerned. They didn't have they were like, Mom, you're good. We know you're going to be okay. Right. And that made
even consider marriage.
Yeah. And that made them consider and start talking about marriage, because my girls were like, oh, I would never get married. Oh, marriage is so overrated. And
like we said earlier,
all men
your
cheat.
marriage is going to minister to someone either positively or negatively.
And now we have one of our daughters, she's married. I think this is her second year of marriage, Marlena and Jesus. And so what happened is, when we got to a healthy place in our marriage, we saw it just kind of trickle down to our children wanting what they saw us, because they saw the real and the raw. Like, a lot of times the world and social media and different platforms don't get to see what happens behind closed doors. But I'm so grateful to God that we both had purpose in our heart. Like, we don't want to be those people. Like, it is what it is. If this is what's happening, this is what's happening, and this is how we're going to resolve it.
Yeah.
And so that's some of the nuggets we do. And yeah, thank you, honey. This is good. I always enjoy hanging out with you. So now I like him a lot. Because there was a part where it didn't work. It just didn't. All right, sorry, y'all. We in the backwoods. We in the backwoods. He always wanted to take me to the backwoods. And we had the Jordan Ranch. And so what we're gonna do when we're gonna go out, there's like a lot of different things we can do. This is a place where you could have marriage retreats. We are planning a couple marriage retreats this year. I'm planning another gathering. So ladies who have experienced one of our gatherings, you guys get ready for a treat. I'm going to be making about that. But we wanted to come here first.
The marriage in 2022, because these guys are booked all this year.
Yeah.
And so it'll be 2022 most likely.
But get ready. I'm gonna do a host a gathering for the women that's comfortable with gathering again. We're gonna make sure we do it, social distance and try to stay safe. Stay safe as we can. But it's time for us just to hang out and have these conversations and like sharpen each other, and talk about these issues and these concerns. Because we want to have a healthy marriage. You want to wake up to the person that you love and still smile and still be happy and not, oh my God, it's him again. Oh my God, it's her again, right? And we just want to just pour and have other couples that we know pour into and just share our testimony, share our, because it's a journey to get here.
Yeah,
it was a journey. It just didn't happen overnight that we just was like madly in love with each other. It was some trials. It was some tribulations.
I have to interrupt. I just heard my wife loves TD Jakes, and one day he was playing. She was watching him in the house, and TD Jakes has been married 50 plus years, and I heard him say, He said he was talking to someone and they said they've been happily married for 50 years. And he said, shut up. Ain't nobody been happily married for 50 years. But we learn how to work in those hard places to get back to the loving moments and the high points. And so,
and now we hang out.
Yeah.
We, and actually this is a truth moment. Like we don't even really argue.
No, it's few and far in between.
Like, and it has been crazy, but such a blessing because we respect each other's boundaries. And it was just the sacrifices. So Torrance and I, when we got married, we did a foot washing service, right? So Torrance washed my feet. I washed his feet when we got married. And it was like symbolic of us serving one another. And also he and I washing off all the pain of our past. So that was really good for us. So what we would do, we kind of incorporated that every month we would wash each other's feet to help remind us of our covenant, right? And that we're here to serve one another. Like I am not here like give me, take care of me, give me what I want, do what I want. And he wasn't saying or asking the same of me. But we really had to get to a place where we said, we're here to serve one another. And it's really a sin and a shame if we serve in the world, serving others well, but then we forget and neglect one another. So we implemented the foot washing into just like daily and weekly tips. So whoever felt like they started the tiff or started the argument, they had to wash the other person's feet, right? So, I mean, of course, it would be that conviction. And so y'all know who got a lot of pedicures. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that he was, he was still strong and knew knows who he is, but he was still vulnerable to say, you know what, honey, maybe I could have said this different. Maybe I could have reacted different to this. And so his way of doing, whoever would start the argument, you would have to bring the water and the bowl and the picture, whatever we had, and you would wash the other person's feet and like really just say, and say a prayer and like say, I'm sorry, I'm here to serve you. And I'm doing this to remember that my assignment is to love you well and to serve you. So we do foot washing. And it's really helped. It is really helped. And one, to acknowledge that you started the argument, no. But I forgive you.
Yeah, her feet was so clean you could eat off of.
I was like, I forgive you, not get right there, honey. No. But it was just, that one of the things that we implemented. We just trying, y'all. And we know that with COVID has affected so many marriages. That is insane for real. And so
because when you realize you have to be at home with one another for 8 hours, that you had a getaway that sometimes people use as an outlet because they don't want to be with their spouse. It exposed some things in marriage. And so, but
this is the part that we're trying to get. We don't want our marriage or our friends or people we know, or even your marriage, if you're watching, we don't want you to get to that place till you wake up and you've had enough.
Yeah.
Because you didn't say enough, or you hid it, or you put it under the rug. Like, don't get to that place. It's work.
Yeah.
And marriage take two people and so that's why Torrance and I, you'll see us dance a lot because we try to keep our rhythm. We try to keep our rhythm together. And once we get our rhythm together, I notice even in our marriage, even though we may not know how to dance well, we have a good time just in the rhythm of the song flowing with one another. And that has been something that has.
But you have to do the work.
You have to do the work.
If you do the ordinary, God will do the extraordinary. Amen. And so you have to put the work, you have to do the heavy lifting and let God be God in your marriage. But he's first and foremost.
And we still have work to do, but I'm grateful that the Lord has given us this platform. Go ahead, Ben.
And one of our hashtags was Newlyweds Forever.
Yes.
And so we're 6 years in and 15 years of being friends. And so we want to be newlyweds forever.
And I wanted him to remain my best friend. Mm-hmm. I tell the girls who I mentor, and I'm getting ready to start another mentoring group. But I tell the the ladies that I mentor. If you have to get out your bed to call your best friend, you married the wrong person. Because truly, the person that you should trust, the person that you are really vulnerable and honest with, should be your spouse. And so if you got to get out of the bed to call your best friend, you married the wrong person. Because our spouse, our mate, our partner should be our best friend. Like, they should be our persons, right? That you can kind of just be you. And not until, like, the Lord he's done so much work in our in us personally, because we did individual work, and then we did collective work, right? And so we just started putting tools together. And so I on one of our date nights, it was like, okay, honey, let's do something. Whatever you think that I'm lacking, because I didn't want him to ever wake up and say, well, you were not this, or you didn't do this, or so anything that Torrance like wants, or I don't want to say needs, probably need is a good, I tell him to tell me. And so one of the things that I may lack, I want him to tell me those things as well, because I want to know. And so we started saying, okay, each month, let's just wherever you think that I am lacking, or I need to work on, let's buy one another a book so we could read, because we like to read. Well, Torrance has to read because he's in school, he's in seminary. However, I remember we exchanged books, and you had bought me a book about it was about wives something. But it wasn't a good book. I mean, the book was good, but it was kind of, I took it offensive, because it was like, I don't remember what it was, so long ago, but it was a book that was kind of like it wasn't like how to deal with a nagging wife or something, but it was like somewhere in that yard. And I was like, well, the nerve. And so, but I had to take it in. Like, it was in that book, but I'm just saying it wasn't really, to me, a positive book. But when I started reading and having a conversation, I was like, oh, wow, maybe I need to work in this area, right? Or maybe I need to do this thing. So it's just working different things, buying each other a book, wherever you think I need to work, and in and on, because that's what we are very intentional about, working in and on our marriage. That's why we have date night. That's why every 3 months we have our getaways, where we could just spend time with the Lord. We could pray about our businesses and like things that's coming up. And so it's good.
Do you have some housekeeping business with TQC? Like
no,
upcoming things?
I do have some upcoming things, but I'm going to wait till until May, because we're going to do them in May.
Yep, season 2 is coming, you guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching.
I want to say this
Go
too.
ahead,
so you guys, we really, really need your help in building YouTube up. It's one of the hardest platforms to crack, but it's also, I believe they say 7 billion people stream YouTube within an hour. And so we're really trying to build up our YouTube platform for TQC. And so we need you guys' help. So if you're listening, please follow the Queen's Corner on YouTube, subscribe, click the notification. The banner is going now to follow the Queen's Corner on YouTube. I like when I describe TQC, I describe it as a place that we're trying to build a steakhouse amongst the fast food restaurants. And so nourishing, good, wholesome conversation.
Where kids can watch.
Where kids can watch. Where teenagers can tune in. Where you'll see ordinary people being interviewed, but are doing extraordinary things in our communities and our places. And so please, we need your help.
Yes. And I wanted to make mention really quick. If you are watching, or if you're going to watch live now or later, I want you, if like there's some issues going on in your marriage, or please
reach out to us.
Just send me a quick email at tqclive@gmail.com, and let us give you some resources, right? I never want you, that's why I don't never say, oh, post on the, below in the comments, because I know a lot of times those things are we're in vulnerable places at the moment. But if you feel like, man, I want to do some work, we need to do the work, you guys reach out to me, and then Torrance and I will reach out, and however we can help. Some of the books we've read.
Where we are now, they do marriage,
and
so it could be a weekend that could change the course of your marriage. But again, get in the game
and forgive. Unforgiveness. All right, you guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope we said something that gave you guys hope and encouragement. Like we said, we're still a work in process. And you have to be intentional to make this work. I love you. Please share the video. Go to our YouTube and follow us.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna give some earrings away.
Okay.
For those who are watching, maybe an earring or bracelet, like a whole set when I get back home. But
don't forget, when we log off, you guys please go to TQC, the Queen's Corner YouTube.
Yep.
Subscribe, press the bell, and get notifications, because we're also going to give away some really cool prizes for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell them what we're giving away for Mother's Day?
Well, we are having the level up your look, so that's going to be good. But I think I want to wait to say the rest.
All right. Well,
all right, you guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to share this video with a friend, and reach out to us at tqclive@gmail.com if you have any questions or you want us to take you to dinner and let's talk about your marriage, because we want all our people to have a healthy marriage, right? Not a perfect marriage, but a healthy marriage.
Maybe that could be a prize. Dinner with the Wilsons.
Dinner with the Wilsons. Torrance say that's going to be a prize. He's my #1 fan. I love this guy. All right, have a blessed day. I am going to go live later just so y'all could see the Jordan Ranch. And I'm going to give the information. That might be something you want to get away with your spouse. Or even let me know if you want to be a part of the retreat that we're doing, either the gathering or we're putting together a marriage retreat as well. So just let us know. We're here to help. All right.
Let the people go.
Let the people go. All right, you guys, I love y'all. Until next time. Thank you, babe.